Gotta go pilot, about to take flight. Gotta do the code day and night. Crafting dreams from bits and bytes. Microsoft Magic, it's out of sight. Gotta go pilot, watch it take flight. Got into the code day and night. Crafting dreams from bits and bytes. Microsoft Magic, it's out of sight. Gotta go pilot, watch it take flight. Gotta do the code day and night. Teamwork cowbell. Shall we ring it out loud? Teamwork cowbell. Making mama proud.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Greetings, wherever you're joining from. I am Ricardo, and this is, and otherwise known as the Teamwork Cowbell. This is Cap for Copilot champion. Oh, I keep getting that mixed up. This is Copilot Adoption Practices, Cap for Copilot, aka.ms/Cap for Copilot. And glad you could join me either live or on demand. We are streaming on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube. So wherever you're joining from, feel free to use the comments, say hello, put any questions in, whatever you're interested in, let me know. So glad you could join me. If you did, that means you are a fellow Copilot enthusiast, a fellow AI enthusiast. You're coming here to get some tips and tricks and best practices on how to use Copilot. And perhaps specifically, you've come because you heard today, I thought we'd talk about what is called conversational probing, iterative prompting. In a nutshell, it's about having Copilot interact with you, more than just, what we commonly do. We ask Copilot a question and we get a response. And maybe we'll finesse that response with a few additional comments, but to really get into the mode of having a conversation and letting Copilot ask follow-up questions and ask questions in general to help with the response, as opposed to kind of you needing to have all of the right answers. That's kind of what we'll get into. Okay. So, really just another way of, to keep in mind in terms of when you do a prompt. This might be an approach that helps, right? Helps you get something different, because sometimes you don't necessarily know exactly what to ask or how to ask it. So it's really about asking Copilot to help you there, right? Just treat it as your assistant. So let me fire this thing up here. And In fact, let's actually start with a fun example of Copilot's ability to ask us questions in order to give us its response. A fun example for those of you who remember, you're old enough to remember, or maybe you've got kids then that have helping you to remember. You remember Mad Libs, where basically it's a story with a lot of key pieces missing. You fill in the pieces before you see the story, and then you get a hilarious story as a result of all these random words that you put in. So, Copilot can be a real-time Mad Libs generator for you, but it's also an example of having Copilot ask you some questions before it gives its response. So let's take a look at this example as a fun first step here. So I think you can see this. So I'm going to ask. In fact, let's make this bigger for you a little bit. And yeah, I got that. So let's ask it. So I'm going to say, I want to create a Mad Lib. Ask me for 5 words, and then use them to create a story about a dragon and a boy. I don't know. It's just something coming off the top of my head with. To me, it's kind of important to say the word Mad Lib because, again, Copilot knows the web. It can go figure out what is a Mad Lib, right? And when it does go figure that out, it's going to help it create what I'm really looking for, right? Because if I didn't add that part and I just said, ask me for 5 words and use them to create a story about a dragon and a boy, it might do something like what I'm trying to accomplish. But again, I specifically am nostalgic here, want to actually do a Mad Lib, right? So I think it's important to add that. Anything we can add to give additional context is important. But let's see what this does for us. And really, I'm going to do that again because I want to be on web. I don't need it to look at my work stuff. And so I think, let's see, I may have to type that one more time. Creating a Mad Lib. Ask me for 5 words and then use them to create a story about a dragon and a boy. And again, if you got any ideas out there, feel free to hit me up in the comments, and I will. I should be able to see that. So I've asked it that, and what did it do? It says that sounds like fun. Let's get started. Can you give me the following 5 words? So it's asking me for the words, right? It's this iterative piece. And one thing I like about the question answer here, natural language, and you can be pretty loose with how you respond because your natural tendency might be, okay, it's got this numbered list. How do I give that back? Do I need to put each one in its own statement, blah blah blah? I tend to just kind of do it however, and it usually works. So in this case, I'm just going to say 1. So an adjective is, let's say, scary, and I'm just going to put 2 there. Noun, I'm going to say building. 3, a past tense verb, ran. 4, place, Cincinnati. And 5, an emotion. Let's just say sad. All right. So again, if you're familiar with Mad Libs, you know how this works. It's now taken those each. It had no problem with the fact that I, formatted my answers that way. It took them and it built out a story. And I'm not going to read this, but hopefully it's got some amount of funniness to it or fun to it. But it certainly used the words and did as I would expect it. It's a little different than Mad Lib because Copilot is smarter than the Mad Lib in that I think it does take my words and make something that works with those words. Whereas an old school Mad Lib the story is what it is, and then whether your words make sense or not. So, but I have done this like with my daughter. It could be a fun little thing to do if you're ever looking for some fun to be had with your kids or with adults, who want to be nostalgic. So, but again, that's an example of asking Copilot to ask me questions, let me give the answers, and so that it can do its response. So now another example. So really, Copilot is ready to have this prompting conversation with us, even if we didn't know that that's the technique we were using. Um, we can have just really basic statements that we just say to Copilot, and it will try to have a conversation. It's very conversational. So, for instance, another example here is if I say, and let me start a new chat, and if I say something as simple as I'm thinking about changing careers. As simple as that, right? I'm not even giving it any prompting or context or telling it what I want. I'm pretty much just starting an open-ended conversation on a vague subject. So if I do that, sounds like a big decision, and it does start asking me questions. What kind of career are you considering and switching to? Are you still exploring your options? Now, again, I didn't tell it anything I needed here. I just started a conversation, and it's going with me. But it is asking me a question. What kind of career are you considering? Now, I can go ahead and give my own answer here. You can also see that in addition to the questions that it's asking me, it is also recommending some responses, right? And this is kind of cool if you just come to Copilot and you don't really know where you want to go with your work today, right? Just get something started, and it's helping me out. So what are some in-demand careers could be a good question I should ask, or how do I start a career change, or can you suggest resources, all of these kind of things, right? So maybe I don't like those. So it asked me, what kind of career are you considering? Thinking about basket weaving. All right. So basket weaving sounds fascinating. And then it continues to ask me questions. Are you interested in traditional techniques? Okay, so I've gone down this basket weaving route, and it's happy to go down that route with me. So, are you interested in traditional techniques, blah, blah, blah. And again, more example questions here that it could help me take down that path. So this was open-ended. Maybe I didn't know where I was going with this, but it is happy to oblige and and help me out here. So that's just an example kind of showing that you can kind of get into this conversational prompting mode just by just putting something out there. AI and Copilot in general will want to have a conversation. It wants more info. It's trying to please you. So it's going to ask things, right? So that's another example. Now, one I'm most was most thinking about with this topic was when I'm very deliberate and intentional about wanting Copilot to ask me questions. And in fact, I may want to even guide the type of questions that it asks. So in this case, let's keep going with the career piece. I think I can copy and paste something here. So I'm gonna copy and paste this guy. So here I'm saying, I don't think I can get it all in. Yeah, I can't get it all in there. I'm interested in changing my career. Ask me 3 things that you need to know in order to suggest a new career for me. Make sure work-life balance is also considered. So now I'm really guiding it. Whereas before, it was just kind of saying, well, what are you thinking? And we went down a basket weaving route. This time I'm saying, ask me 3 things specifically, which the number I think is important because it's telling Copilot I've got 3 opportunities perhaps here. It might be only 3 opportunities to get all I need out of Ricardo to answer his question. So they've got to be good. They've got to be big enough that if I've only got 3 questions I can ask, I can get, enough out of them. If I said 10, you'd have different levels of questions there. But then I also made sure if I hadn't put that work-life balance part in there, um, that might not be part of what Copilot responds with. So I've given it an indication that that's an important aspect for me. It might have gotten that out of my responses anyway, but we want to we want to be deliberate about it. Okay. So let's see what that does. So it says, great, here's some questions to help suggest a few things. So what are your current skills and experience? What's your interests and passions? What's your priorities for work-life balance? Pretty straightforward. Certainly, if I'd given it more chance to ask some more questions, maybe they would have been a little more directed or something like that. Again, we got potential example responses. I have experience in marketing, passionate about X, so on and so forth. Now, what I think is interesting, last time I tried this, I'm going to make it really hard for Copilot. This is somebody that has no idea what they want, and they're all over the place, right? So what are my current skills? I know how to weave baskets. I know how to DJ weddings. I like engineering. I mean, I'm all over the place, right? I'm passionate about fishing. And in terms of work-life balance, I don't want to work more than 30 hours a week. If this was me trying to coach somebody and those are the responses they gave me, I don't think I could help. Basket weaving, DJing, engineering, fishing, and you don't want to work a full week. That's pretty tough, but let's see what Copilot has to say about it. So thanks for sharing. Based on your skills, interests, and work-life balance, here are some suggestions. So a crafts instructor, an event planner, a freelance engineer, and a fishing guy. All right. So anyway, it did what it could. If I was really asking this, I don't know. That might get me started. And of course, I can ask additional stuff. If one of those things really was interest to me, I could say, tell me more about number 3. I can see these suggested prompts down here. Tell me more about X. Tell me, what skills do I need to do event planning, all of those things. So I could dig into all of that. But again, the key here was that we were able to give it some additional details about what we wanted. And no matter how all over the place our responses are, it's going to do its best to try to help us out. Right. So I can't imagine it's going to ever turn us down and say, dude, you're all over the place. You're unfocused. Don't do it. Now, that's another aspect we could do is to, as part of our response, tell it to keep a certain tone with us. Maybe we want more of that coach, like a sports coach that's like, really making you, work hard, or maybe we want a calm, soothing, supportive tone. All of those things we could add into our prompt so that we can make this experience, whatever we want, motherly response, or, stern, whatever makes you happy. But those things can be added as well. And then, then of course, always I would edit in Pages, take this over here, and then this could then become my little cheat sheet for starting to, do my additional notes as I start to look into freelance engineering or fishing or whatever. I've now got this stuff all written up for me, ready to go, to dig into it further. So that's kind of cool that, again, it is always just a reminder. I am constantly reminding folks about not going for a one-shot prompt, one perfect prompt, one perfect response, and then I'm done with Copilot, right? It is multiple iterative prompts, refine what you've got, make Copilot engage with you, and make sure it gets what it needs. And then, of course, if we ever wanted to feed something in, like in this case, in this particular conversation, I might upload, my resume into Copilot in addition to that question. So I'm thinking of a career change. Here's my resume. Obviously, then Copilot would read that resume and start to maybe give me some suggestions there about that. So, we're looking at a lightweight, life coach, in that example, right? So, we just got to be creative with the ways that, we might use Copilot, and be ready for an iterative conversational style, be able to use our natural language to, as we talk back to it, don't worry about being technical when we are given those prompts or those responses, right? Natural language is another thing to remember to leverage, because that's really going to be helpful. So that's that conversational probing, also called iterative prompts, things like that, multi-turn conversations, that kind of thing. Just wanted to introduce us to that. So hope that's helpful. Again, we're here every week. If you've got other thoughts and ideas about things you want to hear about, let us know. We'll keep rocking and rolling with this as we go through each week. And of course, as new topics come up in the world of Copilot, which they do often, we'll try to bring them here and talk through them, and then certainly bring them to the comment section, or the comment section as well. All right. So good stuff. So I hope that was helpful. Hope that was helpful. And otherwise, I will see you next week for more Copilot adoption practices. You can find this session and all the others. I think this is session number 12, but you can find this and the rest of them at aka.ms/cap for Copilot. All right. So have a great one, everybody.